Welcome back. You are listening to the Maryam Mkwanda show on Salam Media, and we are also live on Facebook. It is 7 minutes after 12 right now, and I'm going to be chatting to Victorine Mbong Shu, who is in education and training. She has been in the sector since 2002. She's also a brand ambassador for Brand SA and an award winning author. She is also a researcher, a motivational and transformational speaker, mentor, assessor, moderator, and CEO of Profounder Intelligence Management Services. Profounder is an education and training, self-publishing, and multimedia company. Which was founded in 2002. Victorine and Emmanuel also run Profound Conference Center in Bramley, Johannesburg. And together they are raising four bubbly children, including Africa's youngest award-winning author, Stacey Frew. Victorine is also a respectable, involved parenting conversationalist, and she's going to be chatting to me about making reading fun for kids. Hi, Victorine.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
I'm okay. I'm still locked down. I don't know about you.
We are still locked down, you know. It reminds me of that song with this guy sings about locked up, they won't let me out. So that's exactly what's happening to us. Just when we thought that our lockdown was going to be over this week, no, extended. So it seems like
No,
not going to let us out anytime soon. But
no
anyways,
time soon.
the show must go on. What can we do?
That's
When it comes to making reading fun, first of all, what makes reading easy and fun?
You know, I would speak from the perspective of a parent now, not necessarily that of a child, where I have tried to make sure that reading becomes fun to my children, not the book or not the article that they are reading, because they would be at one point in life confronted with material that they have to read that is not necessarily entertainment, but they are compelled to
Absolutely.
read. So what we tell them from when they are very young is that you do not read to enjoy, you read
Mm,
to understand, you read to learn. So
mm,
reading becomes fun when you see reading as a form of growth, not a
mhm,
form of entertainment. And reading become not fun when you focus on the entertainment part that reading brings forward. So
mhm,
parents, I think you're engaging me more from the point of view of a parent. And so I
mm,
would say to parents, it's very important that when you educate your children from when they are very young, when you
mm,
explain to them why you have to read to them before they have to read for themselves and for others, you should focus on the fact that reading is an enhancement. It's not
mhm,
necessarily entertainment.
mhm. So you mentioned at very young. Is there a specific age that parents should introduce books to kids?
Yes, there is a specific age, and that age is at
Mhm,
moment of conception. When you conceive a child and you're still pregnant,
mm,
most of the things that you do push your energy as the mother, particularly to that child.
mm,
So I always say to people, when you're pregnant, the type of music you listen to influences your child, like it or not. And same with the type of books, especially if you read aloud or if you
mm,
an audiobook person, because audiobook also get listened by that child in your tummy. So I
mhm,
encourage parents to be educationally inclined when they are pregnant, be reading inclined when they are pregnant, and to start reading to their children from day one, as soon as you can carry yourself, as soon as you find focus, because birth also brings a lot of instability in life. And one of the things that I encourage parents to be is that they should try and put a schedule for themselves, what they want to do within the first 3 months after the child is born. And reading
mm,
should be one of them. It should be within that first 3 months. It doesn't matter at what time you carry on doing that reading within the 3 months, but just make sure that you bring it in, because for anything to become a habit, it has to be introduced very early, at a very early age. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that irrespective, it doesn't matter the age of your child currently. It's never too late. In one of my books on parenting, I said it's never too late to introduce any aspect that is an enhancement in your family's life.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that you mentioned that, I'm starting to to put two and two together and say, no wonder my child is such a crybaby. Oh. But anyways, she's a
Were you
crybaby.
a crying pregnant woman? Let's go back there. You can't run away. Were you crying a lot while pregnant?
I was crying a lot, so now I get it. She was a cry. She's a crybaby. Ooh,
Okay. Mhm.
all right. So with the lockdown, parents are obviously finding it difficult to teach their kids. It's because it's not something that they've done before, something that they're used to. Okay, let me not say they've done before. They've done it, but when they didn't think that it was as intense as it is now, because earlier on when we were teaching our 1 and 2 year olds, that was still fine. Now they're a bit older and we're finding it very overwhelming to teach them. We are so used to sending them to school, have their teachers teach them, then they come home and we just do homework with them, and we call it a day. But now obviously things have changed with the lockdown and it's not as easy, and some even struggle to get the kids to read. So how can
Mhm.
parents make this a little bit less challenging, and so that everyone can cooperate and do their bit?
It's a very good question, and thank you so much for that. But the one thing that I want to tell you is that my response to this question will take living arrangement into consideration, because we live in different setups. There are some
Mm.
families that would have 8 people crammed in a one bedroom, and it becomes extremely impossible to have your children exposed in the same way like a family which is privileged, like my family, where we have a reading room. So adapt what I'm telling you, but please take it into your own personal situation. Let it be situational.
Mm.
So what we have done in our house is, during the lockdown, we were forced anyway to set up our study, which is a small room, but now we set it up in a way that all 6 of us in the family would fit in. So we've got
Mm.
6 computers in this small room. It's like a Microsoft Learning Center, or I don't know, or a university library.
Mm.
And we get there, we sit down, we have a routine. Those who are still in school, because we've got 4 children, in 2 different set of schools, a 3-term and a 2-term and a 4 terms. So 2 are
Mhm.
still in school and 2 are now on holiday. But luckily during the shutdown, they were all in school. So what we did was, we would wake up and we would follow the school routine. Now with the other set on holiday, luckily again for us, it's the older set that is on holiday. So the older set have become teachers. We have made sure that to beat the boredom in them, and also to make the younger ones not feel like the older ones are relaxing, we
Mhm.
allocated, actually it was my daughter's idea, my second daughter who is 13. It was her idea that her and her older brother who is 14 should teach the younger ones within the learning period and a different pace from the school day. So together they can have fun. So we've changed
Mm.
everything around. The break time, the breakfast time has changed, the lunch time has changed. We hardly have supper now because we do punch, and then we have lunch at about 3 or 4 o'clock. So go with your children, give them the liberty to come up with a program to lead their own life, because this lockdown is a time when children would also test their capacity. They would come up to us and say, I can do this or I cannot do this, not us necessarily waiting for them. But let me
Mhm.
go back to the situation of your question, which is a 3-year-old child who does not understand what lockdown is and does not understand what reading to me is. What you do is, with children who are very young, they had initially been on a routine. So you had read to them when they went to bed, because maybe you are a working parent, or you had read to them in the morning before you leave, or you had a routine for them. Please make sure that you keep to that routine. You keep to that reading routine, because once you disorganize the child's mentality, it will be very hard after lockdown to bring them back and say, children learn according to routines. It's very important to make them have those routines. When they have those routines, their absorption level is higher than when they do not have that routine. So make sure you maintain that routine. If you typically had no routine, and then what you can do is, again, draw a schedule, either mentally or on a piece of paper, and use that schedule with your child, where you can say, after breakfast, let's read. Change the reading positions as well. If
Mm-hmm.
you typically read in that one bedroom that I told you, make sure you sit on the stairs now and you read to that child. Make sure you sit on a stone now, you read to that child. You climb on a tree, or the child is up a tree and you are down and you read to that child. Make it fun, but change the position, because they typically had gone to creche or to play school. They typically had learned while they played. Now they are being locked down in an environment where play is not really available for them. Play is not readily available for them. So you have to come up with creative plays. Even before lockdown in our house, we would allow the children to sit on the deep freezer and read to me while I cook. So it's fun for them, because they typically don't get to sit on the deep freezer while I cook. But because they're reading or because they're doing their homework, we allowed them to sit, just so they enjoy that study and fun environment for them. They think they are playing, you think they are studying. I don't know if
Mm.
I make sense, but
Yes,
try
it
and make it
is.
creative. Try and take the children into different setups. It doesn't matter where water destroys books, but children can still read in the bath.
Mm. Now, what about the situation whereby, like you mentioned earlier, the setup of the household? There's 8 people living in this house, and it's a bit difficult. It's challenging to find a spot to read. Sometimes, these setups are also child-headed setups, and kids want to learn. They want to read. They want to do, to touch their books and do homework and do whatever, but they can't because they have younger siblings that they have to look after as well. They have older parents, grandparents that they have to see to and take care of. They have abusive parents as well. Uh, so what happens in that situation? What can be done?
When you're talking, I'm tempted to say to you, log onto the internet and get other people reading the books, and then you view it like
Mm,
an entertainment for the family, because we did that also. We got to the point where we didn't want any of us to read, so we log on to Instagram and Facebook, and we watched videos of others reading. It's one of the things that Stacy is also doing. She's reading out, so we go
mm,
to her page. But now not everybody again has that privilege of technology. So what I
yes.
would do in this situation is that I would say to the child or the mother heading these homes, or the father or the uncle or the auntie or the grandma, that please give everybody an opportunity to shine. So if in a Monday, the first 2 people in the family had their opportunity to be read to or to read, on Tuesday, the second 2 people should have that opportunity. So it should become rotational, rather than
Mm,
everybody scrambling to have their turn. So everybody cannot have their turn at the same time. Try and take turns. And the turns shouldn't be on the same day, because if your turns are on the same day, mind you, we've got 5 weeks of lockdown, you are
mm,
going to be damn bored. So make sure you spread it out. Even skip some days. Skip some days that you don't get onto books, because you don't also want your children to detest or hate books after the lockdown. And you don't want them to feel deprived. That is why you keep them continuously exposed to books. So let not every day be book day for everyone. And
mm,
remember, those 10 people in that one room, not all 10 of them want book as a means of entertainment. Some of them would want a radio, some of them would want television. So respect each other's space, give each other the turn, and also make sure that you support each other in their own need. Because support is extremely important at this point in time, where we are all lonely and dependent on our lonely thoughts.
mm,
Things go through your mind where you cannot articulate. You have needs that you cannot share with people, no matter how close you are. So
yeah.
we then just we solicit for support from family members. If I say I want to go out to the garden and cut a leaf, okay, you don't want to come out, but just stand at the window and cheer me while I cut that leaf. You don't need to walk out and do it practically. So let's try and be emotionally stable for each other, no matter what we do. But turn taking is extremely important. Cheer each other when it's their turn.
Is it possible to take a child or turn a child into a book lover if they previously didn't love reading?
Great question. I've come across this question so many times when I do my conversations. And yes, it is possible. Two things are possible. It's possible to turn a child who didn't love reading at all into loving reading, and it's happened. I've seen it many times. And it's also possible to turn a child who loved reading into not loving reading. So with a child who does not love reading, what you do is you start by exposing them to just normal things. Do word games with them. Do fun games with them. Every child has a desire. Every single child has a desire. First thing, look for your child's desire. If your child's desire is animals, start by playing verbal animal games. And then you move on to handwritten animal games. And then you move on to simple books on animals. It could be even a book of quizzes. It could be just a comic book. It could be anything that is very light to read, but entertaining. And then from that stage, when you find out that you've gotten their attention in those three stages, the stage of just doing the verbal game, the written game, and the comic game, the fourth stage that you move on to is giving them the opportunity to choose the books that they want to read, and give them the opportunity to tell you the time frame within which they want to read that book. So for a 5-year-old, they would say to you, they would like to read it for 5 months, because remember, some of them don't have a chronology of time. They do not understand what 5 months is. And then you remind them how long 5 months could be. And you say to them, can we read things? Can we say by Friday you have finished reading? Today is Tuesday. And tomorrow is Wednesday. And you ask them, how far have you gone? Do not pressure them. Do not pressure them. And please do not also fall into the temptation of material reward that most parents fall into. Do verbal rewards and also reward them by their own satisfaction. Ask them, what do you think I can do for you? I've got an 8-year-old who still asks for a cuddle in my bed as a reward. What can I do? What do you think I can do to make you feel good for doing what you've done? And he'll go like, can you please cuddle me in bed before daddy comes in? Because he knows that daddy is his biggest rival in bed. So he wants that cuddle. So don't do material reward, do some reward. I've got a daughter who asks me to cook with me. My 10-year-old cook with me as a reward. So those things, you find out that you are now satisfying that child, not you as a parent. You're not satisfying your need. And then you move now with that child, you then move from the books that they choose, and you start suggesting books for them. You say to them, so please do not rush it. You can do each of these activities in 3 months, in 2 months, according to how your child reacts to it, how quick your child reacts to it. So the fifth stage now will be you proposing books to that child and saying to the child, I came across this book, what do you think? And then remember, they might resist. And then you know your child's best friend, and you say to your child, please read this book so you can tell the best friend the story. And they will be very excited. Yeah, so catch them, trap them, make them a storyteller. When they read the book, always ask for the story. When you then want them to tell the story, they become tired telling you the story, because most often, again, we are tempted to give out the same response each time they tell us a story. So they get tired by our responses. And then you vary it. Their favorite uncle, can you read the book so you can tell Uncle Ali the story? Their favorite auntie, can you read the book? And then you call up auntie and say to auntie, Julia has a story to tell you on the phone. Imagine the joy of telling auntie a story that you read, and you do that, and gradually you would find that child would then be the one asking you, the parent, or you, the guardian, to provide them with books.
Mm. That's so true. And then the kids are always so excited to share news and things that they've learned with everyone. So yeah, that I'm gonna try that. Well, my child is still a toddler. She's not even 2 yet. So I'm still there. I'm still at the beginning. So I'm gonna start from the beginning and try to get her to become a book lover. But I've seen her take some of my books, and in fact, once she was, I can't remember how old she was, but she was still around 10, 11 months. And she took those newspapers, the catalogs where there's items on, and yeah, those
Wow.
when we're comparing prices. So she took one of those, and she was like,
Mm.
I was like, oh, wow, she's reading. And she wasn't even a year old, but she already had an idea
Wow.
of what to do with the newspaper. So yeah, I'm gonna just try and
Can I tell you
groom her
something?
into a reader and a love of books. Yes.
Mm. You know, the one thing that my husband and I did very well, that we think is the reason our four children all love books, is that
Mm,
we littered our home with reading material. You know,
mm,
if I were to turn my camera around right now, you would see books everywhere. It doesn't
mm,
matter if it's my kitchen, the TV room, the kids' room, my bedroom, everywhere has books, and that is the one thing that you should try to expose your child to. Make
mm,
sure that you exposed her to a lot of books. And for us, the caliber of the book doesn't matter. If I can show you my reading table now, you will see psychological development during adolescence. It's on the table here. You see Braille book. This is Braille. A Braille book. On my table, we don't have any blind person in my house. You would see my own book trapped in our shadows. You would see different books. This is on one table. So try and make sure that you litter your home with books for your child. By her
mm,
bed, on her bed, let it be magazines, let it be papers. They would love books. Don't force them to read what you have placed there, but
mm,
now and then make a trick to refer them to books.
mm,
My 14-year, and I still do that to my 14-year-old. My 14-year and I, we were talking about teen tycoons, and I had to go look for a book with teen tycoons, and I just opened that page for him, and I said to him, please read it and let's discuss. And he read
mm,
it, and he was a person who came to me and said, Mommy, we can talk now. So it's very important that you keep them inquisitive. And I've got very critical thinkers in my house, very,
mm.
very critical.
Wow.
And it's very important. That is because my husband and I, we actually put time to talk with our children. We do not have age limited topics. We do
Mm-hmm.
not have high taboos. Yes, we don't expose them to that, but if they bring the topic to us, we do not limit it. So you
Mm,
should also make sure that if your 3-year-old or 2-year-old walks up to you and say to you, Mommy, I want to have sex, do not hide that from her. Make sure you understand, because you do not know where they have picked it up, and you do not know how destructive that knowledge could be for your child if you do not harness it for them. So always
mm,
be the person who harnesses the knowledge for your child. Let it not be someone out there. Not I feel like the teacher doesn't even have the right to harness knowledge for my children as much as I do, because what the teacher is giving my child is theory. What I'm giving my child is practical. So you should
mm-hmm.
know about those differentiation and play your role as the parent to make sure that your child grows up with those differentiations in mind, but with that capacity to make sure that their home is the biggest library, is the biggest learning environment that they can get.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to leave it there right now. Thank you so much for your time and for the interesting and informative chat. I hope that our parents who have been listening and watching can take this information and run with it before it's too late. I mean, we have time now during the lockdown, so let's make use of the time, the availability that we have right now, because when we go back to work, it will all just be about work and school, and we don't have time for anything like this. But thank you so much for your time once again, and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much. You keep well.
Thank you. Bye bye. That was Victorine Mbong Shu talking about making reading fun for kids, especially during this lockdown period. Parents, we need to think outside of the box and look for ways to get our kids into books and to teach them and to make reading fun for them and not just command them and say, go read. We must do it together, do it with them, and infiltrate your house, put books everywhere so that they can pick up a book anytime and read a book. It is at 12:32. Do stay with us. We will be right back after the break.